Beloved, welcome to a deeper dive.
There is a big backlash, specifically, amongst really coming out from the black community, that they're saying, this is racist. This is another. They're trying to hold a black man down. They don't want to see a black man rise up. So it's that kind of rhetoric that's being shared on social media. However, the coaches are saying a different thing. The organizations are saying a different thing. They're saying that Shedeur specifically did not come to the meetings with the NFL teams prepared. They didn't feel like he was prepared the way that an NFL player or a rookie coming into the NFL that wants to be in the NFL would prepare to demonstrate that he's willing to do what's required to make it on this level. They felt as if Shedeur didn't demonstrate that.
Was he made aware of what was required to prepare?
I'm not sure of that. I'm pretty sure there may be a handbook or maybe some tutoring that goes along when these guys are leaving college to go into the NFL. But I'm not sure exactly if that was done or who done it or did he receive it. I'm not sure of that.
Well, I want to, because we're doing a deeper dive, I want to look at a bigger issue. Why is this a conversation on social media? I have noticed that, not that it shouldn't be, no heat, no judgment, but I have noticed that social media has become a snake pit for meanness, for all manner of foul thinking and foul speaking. Just kind of in general, which is why I don't do a lot of social media. But in this particular case, one thing that I would offer to everyone, regardless of the topic, the subject, the issue, when you put your thought to something or your mouth to something, have an intention. Don't just have an opinion, because you and your opinion will get you nowhere quickly. Have an intention. So what is the intention of speaking to this as an issue of racism when the people who are speaking to it have no intimate knowledge of the intricate facts of the experience? You asked me the question, and I'm saying to you, well, was he aware that he needed to be prepared in a certain way? You didn't know, and you're asking me the question. Well, if you don't know, you know I don't know. So if you'd asking the question and you don't know, and I'm trying to answer the question and I don't know, then I have no opinion. But I do see an issue here that we can take a deeper dive on if you're willing to.
Okay.
This young man, I'm going to assume, is talented. This young man, based on what you're saying to me, wants to play football. And this young man needs to be welcomed, accepted into a community, an established community, which would be a football team. So the football team has a right to set whatever standards, goals, criteria that they deem necessary for their players to come into a cohesive environment. The football team has a right to do that. This young man who has the gift, talent, who wants to play football, also has the right to show up authentically. The question becomes, does the football team, the community of football players, do they have the right to judge his authentic self-expression? His authentic self-expression. How was he showing up in a way that didn't honor, didn't respect, didn't align, if you will, with what the football community wanted? and the football community, what is it that they're expecting from this young man of color in the 21st century that they found so unacceptable that they would not embrace his talent for the team? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that's one issue. Does the team have a right to set the standards? Absolutely. Does the young man have a right to express authentically? Absolutely. How can the two of them meet without judgment, without againstness? As opposed to this being some great big racist thing, because it may not be that. We don't know if he was prepared. We don't know if he knew he was supposed to be prepared. Now, the underbelly is what I think everybody's speaking to. The underbelly. Because we live in a society where men of color specifically are expected to bow a little further, show up a little milder, and be who they're not to keep everybody comfortable. That's just where we live. No heat, no judgment. That's the reality. So if their father was judged for being outspoken and, what did you say, flashy, is this football community assuming that the son is going to be the same way? We can't answer that because we're not the son or the community. Here's what we can answer. How does it make you feel as a man of color, as the mother of a man of color, the wife, the sister of a man of color, in the 21st century, to know that black men very often are judged for their authentic self-expression? How does that make you feel? This is not about the football community. This is not about Deon Sanders. This is about what we see in the world and taking a deeper dive into it and checking in with ourselves about how it feels. We have to know that it's the bee and the butterfly when it comes to men of color. I'm saying men of color because I say black men, brown men, and in some cases red men. People see a butterfly and they immediately smile. Oh, the butterfly's so beautiful. Look at the butterfly. Oh. And people see a bee, and the bee could be 5 feet away, 10 feet away. The bee is over there eating his honey, licking his wings, and immediately people start screaming, running, and swatting. In this world, many people see black men as the bee. All he has to do is show up as who he is, and he'll be swatted. He'll be feared. People will make assumptions and judgments about him. So our deeper dive question is, how does that make you feel to know in the world today that black men are judged and there's a lot of againstness and fear about men of color and their authentic self-expression? Let's dive into that. That's one. Now just keep going and you can ask me something else about that situation.
About that same situation?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. It would appear as if, just from what's being reported, Boomer Esiason, a retired Hall of Fame NFL quarterback, who was now an NFL analyst, reported that there were many teams that said, take Shedeur Sanders off of the draft list. Don't draft him at all. Then there were
He knows that. He knows that from firsthand knowledge or from hearsay.
This is just what's being reported.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard it from hearsay or from firsthand knowledge, but he's a very credible guy in the NFL. So chances are, more likely, he heard it from, some of those owners.
Then, take him off of the draft list because
Well, that brings he didn't give a because.
Okay.
Now, what I heard from me being a Giants fan, the Giants coach Brian Gable said, and this is quoted in the paper and on ESPN, that he wasn't prepared. He did not come with the level of readiness that NFL's players come to the table with. So this is what's being reported by NFL and sports analysts. Different from, oh, he's a, they're ostracizing him, they're being racist because he's a black man. So we're hearing both stories here.
Can I talk to Shedeur for a moment? Yeah.
Yes.
Shedeur, you are a descendant of those who chose to survive. Obviously, because you're here and your father's here and his father was here, your ancestors were not among those who jumped off the ship to save themselves from slavery. They endured unimaginable conditions, pain to be here so that you could go to college because they couldn't even read, so that you could make a choice of how to be in the world. I say all of that to you, Shedeur, to say that you're powerful. You're not a victim here. Yes, I'm an OG, but I believe in the laws of life and the universe, the laws of God, the laws that our ancestors lived by. And one of those laws says, I myself am the ruler of my universe. Nothing comes to me unbidden by myself. If it is in my life, it is here because I bid it or I created it. So Shedeur, my love, I want to ask you. You're obviously talented and gifted because all of this hoopla is going on around you, and I don't even know the whole story. Playing football is obviously something you want to do because you showed up for it. How did you, in your mind, your heart, create an experience where you would be rejected and denied the very thing you desire? That's question number one, Shedeur. Let's take a deeper dive into that. Question number two, what is it that you are learning about yourself, about life, not about other people, about yourself and about life, because you are not a victim. Your ancestors survived so that you would not be a victim. I'm not talking about the ways of the world, my beloved. I'm talking about your heart and your soul. What are you learning about yourself and your life as a result of this experience? That's what I would ask Shedeur. Let's take a deeper dive into that.
What would you say to the coaches?
To the coaches who have been granted the privilege of influencing, and some might even say controlling, the lives of other people. Because those players are on those teams because the coaches or the owners have them there. Those players play because the coaches say they can play. That means that the coaches are in roles of leadership. And there are some principles that leaders must have and demonstrate and take into consideration when they are entrusted with the lives of other people. So the same coaches that said Shedeur or Shiloh weren't prepared. I don't know if they said that about Shiloh. I hear them saying that you said they said that about Shedeur. But those same coaches, those leaders, I would say to them this. Are you moving in integrity? Or are you standing in judgment? Are you using your own personal ego centered desires? Or are you looking out for the good of the whole? Because what is the purpose of a football team? It's to win football games. And in order to win football games, you need good football players. Now, I've heard of some of the shenanigans of some football players who are still on teams. So my question to the coaches would be, are you in integrity when you made this decision? Or are you functioning off your own personal limitations, judgments, againstness, whatever it is? And are you demonstrating good leadership when you dismiss, deny, overlook a quality player for your team simply because of what you may think or what you've heard? But let's take a deeper dive, because that's what we're here to do. How do you approach or challenge a leader when you know that they're not working in integrity? When they're choosing out of judgment? And when perhaps they don't have all of the facts and information? When they're choosing for themselves as opposed to for the good of the whole? How do you challenge that leader? And that leader could be your boss. That leader could be a member of your work group. It could be someone in your family. It could be the leader of the country. How do you challenge that leader? And what do you do with the feelings it brings up for you? I think that we should dive into that.
Well, since we're on this topic here,
Wait a minute, let me wipe my nose. Mm-hmm.
prior to the draft was last week. Prior to the draft, Deon Sanders, the father, was very vocal about my son is not playing for this team, and my son is not going to play for that team. And it was interesting because the teams that he said that they weren't going to play for were the teams that were interviewing him, that were being very aggressive in trying to draft this kid. So to see that at the midnight hour, even those teams that were interviewing him, they pulled out. And again, what they said was they really didn't find favor in the comments that Deon Sanders was making. So it almost seems like his son is being punished. Like the sons are being punished. The sins of the fathers fall on the children.
Mm.
That's what it appears to be.
Not too long ago, I did a deeper dive about my tissue. And how my grandmother always had a tissue or a handkerchief, and unconsciously, I always have a tissue in my hand or a handkerchief. So it is true that we inherit qualities, characteristics, even reputations of those who walk before us. Now, I am quite sure that as a father, my brother Deon wants the best for his sons, daughters, his children, his offspring, just as I would want the best for mine. My question becomes, not just for Deon, because this is very impersonal, or Shedeur, or in everybody. How often do fathers bless their sons? How often do they speak words of positive and powerful affirmation over their children? And I would also wonder if Deon, my brother, who I love, is aware of how powerful his words are. And how did he contribute to the creation of this experience for his sons? As people in general, we don't recognize how powerful our minds are, how powerful our words are, which is another disturbing factor for me in what's going on social media. We will say anything, and we put things out there, and then when it comes back, we become victims. No, 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 no. I myself am the ruler of my world. Nothing comes to me unbidden by myself. If it is in my life and my world, it is because I bid it or I created it. So I'm wondering what Deon carries in his heart and mind about how he's been treated. And perhaps, I don't know this to be true, I have no heat, no judgment, I'm just doing a deeper dive. Perhaps the same power and tenacity and energy that he used to make a losing, to elevate a losing team into a winning team, speaking those words about what was not going to happen for his son, created the very thing he spoke. Job said, "Oh, my greatest fear has come upon me." So let's take a deeper dive here. Not make it just about Deon and Shiloh and Shedeur. As people, look at your life and find those places where you are living the very thing you spoke. Let's dive into that.
Wow. That's really deep. That's like past 10 foot. That's like ocean deep. Let's stay in the swimming pool. Stay in the swimming pool of the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, Shannon Sharpe, who is a former, also a retired Hall of Fame NFL player, who's been in the media a lot lately. Not say a lot, but enough for me to recognize it, for many people who don't watch football to recognize it.
Wait a minute. Shannon Sharpe. Is that Shay Shay? I know Shay Shay.
That's Shay Shay.
That's Shay Shay. That's where Cat Williams went to spill the tea, right? I know that. I'm proud of myself.
Shay Shay is in the headlines now for a couple of reasons. He just was offered a $100 million contract or extension by ESPN as a commentator. But right on the heels of that offer, there was a big thing in the media. Apparently, it was an audio that was leaked. It was him and a young Caucasian woman having a conversation.
What do you mean Caucasian? White?
A white woman.
Okay.
Him and a white woman.
But Shay Shay's not white.
I'm just giving you the details.
Okay.
And he was recorded on the phone with this woman, where the woman recorded the conversation.
Ooh.
And it was very provocative, and it really didn't show him in a good light.
Who is this woman?
The woman is a 20-year-old OnlyFans model who he's been in a relationship apparently for 2 years. And what's being
Wait a minute. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. I want you to know I'm hearing you. Shay Shay, my brother, my son. He's 1 year older than my son, because I looked him up. Was in a relationship with a 20-year-old woman who happens to be white. And is in the course of their relationship, she recorded a conversation between herself and him that did not show him in the best possible light. And now has, knowing that he's a sports commentator on one of the biggest sports media outlets, and that he's a former NFL player, she has now leaked that private conversation. Forgive me, because the lawyer in me just kicked in. She was sleeping. When she hears something of interest, she wakes up. Okay, continue. Did I get it all? Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
So he received the big contract. Then this audio is leaked. Accompanied with the audio are press releases about a lawsuit that she is filing against him for rape. She's saying that Shay Shay raped her and that he was very aggressive and violent with her, and that as a result, she wants $50 million. Apparently, he tried to get ahead of it and he offered her $10 million, and she said no, I want 50. And according to the papers and everything, she has the lawyer that is handling all of these high-profile lawsuits. Cassie, I think he represented Cassie and Diddy's situation. There's a couple of other high-profile situations where this guy is leading the charge. Bill Cosby, I think he was involved with that situation also, where these Caucasian white women are saying that these...
They're not Caucasian and white. There's no Caucasian black women.
These white women, these women that they're in relationship with are now saying that these men, in this case is Shay Shay, raped her. And she wants $50 million as a result of that violation. And this is what's going on in the media. So what happened was he stepped down from ESPN. So that $100 million contract is no longer in effect. So that's the status.
Did he step down from ESPN or was he disinvited?
The way that it looks like, we don't know. But the way it looks like it out in the public is they could have asked him to step down, but it looks like he stepped down on his own.
Good.
But what's happening now is that media is going on attack. Every blogger, every podcaster, every video caster, Shay Shay should have been with the white woman. What is that 56-year-old man doing with that little girl? Listen to the conversation that they're having. She set him up. She ambushed him. She's an OnlyFans model. If you don't know what OnlyFans model is, it's basically social media for porn stars. They have a porn. They go to OnlyFans and they do all kind of sexual lewd acts and people pay them money right then and there on the spot. So this is an OnlyFans model who he's been in a relationship with for several years, who's younger than his children. This is what the attacks are coming at him now on social media. So what is the deeper dive here?
What is the deeper dive? Again, it just boggles my brain that people think their opinion about what someone does or doesn't do matters. I just don't get it. I'm OG. I just don't get it. Why? What's going on between Shannon Sharp's sheets have anything to do with anybody else? And the people who have so much to say, I'm not talking about the media. They are almost, that's their job to report it. I'm talking about the people that report on the report. The people that get into these, what do they call them, threads, and have such nasty, violent wickedness to spew. And then when they break their leg or their car gets totaled or they lose their credit card or somebody steals, they don't understand why. Because you created it. Nothing comes to me unbidden by myself. The deeper dive here is you don't always have to have something to say. Do they not know that Shannon Sharp, that's their brother? That's their brother in the wholeness, in the oneness of life. When I hear the story, you said he's 50, yes, he's 56. This woman that he was involved with is much younger. No judgment. He likes a young thing. I might like a young thing every now and then. He has a right. But we also live in a world where it is still raises an eyeball and an eyebrow for a man of color to be with a white woman. No heat, no judgment. But why do we have to have something to say about that? Can I talk to Shannon? Because talking to anybody else is not going to resolve the issue, nor can we learn from it. And a deeper dive for me is about us learning. So first of all, keep your opinion to yourself. Do not continue. We cannot continue to spew such vile, violent ugliness of our opinions in a medium that's giving it millions and millions of megahertz, because that's coming back on you. It's the law. Law of cause and effect, law of correspondence, law of compensation. What you put out is coming back. It is. It just is. And it may not come back from Shannon or from the white girl or from ESPN. But it's coming back. If you think it, if you speak it, if you put it out, it's coming back. So let's take that into consideration. And I've seen some of the things we put on social media. But again, let's do the deeper dive so we can all learn from our brother. Thank you, Shay Shay. Thank you for this powerful reminder that what you do in the dark will come out in the light. Okay. Thank you, Shay Shay, for this powerful reminder for all of us that we must be more and more mindful of how we treat those we claim to love, how we treat those with whom we are in relationship. Thank you for this reminder, because we think because we love somebody or we're in relationship with somebody that we have a right to say and do and be anything. Not so. Thank you also, Shay Shay, for this incredible opportunity to remember what it means to be in the public eye. You know you're in the public eye. I know I'm in the public eye. And so we have to be mindful moment by moment by moment of how people see and hold us. And to always remember to honor who we are and where we come from. For me as a woman, everything that I do in my life, and I learned this the hard way, I ask myself internally, what would my grandmother say if she saw this? What would my grandmother say if she heard this? Now, sometimes in my brain, I say, well, she's old, she don't know. But I try to clean it up a little bit. So, Shay Shay, the ancestors are holding you accountable, just as they're holding all of us accountable. Thank you for this reminder that we have to show up differently in the world, that we have to be in integrity, we have to be accountable, and we have to be responsible. So for me, the deeper dive here is Shay Shay. The same thing that I would say to the young brothers, Deon sons. How did you create this? And what are you learning? How did you create this? When you look at character as your foundation, when you look at integrity as your guidepost, when you look at accountability and responsibility as your the sides of your scales, how did you create this? But that's for all of us here. When something comes up in our life that we feel is horrible, terrible, whatever the challenge is, when we're being accused, when we're being judged, when we're being looked at, how did you create it? Nothing comes to me unbidden by myself. If it is in my life, I either created it or I bid it. I called it in. So my beloved Shay Shay, I know this is hard. I know this is probably not something that you were looking for, but I also know this. You were warned. I know you were. You had a hint, you had a notion, you had a feeling, and you ignored it. So how did you create this? Because you're not a victim here. Our deeper dive is to look at those things and places in your life where you felt you were treated unjustly and ask yourself, where am I in that situation? How did I forget, breach, violate my own integrity and character? And what am I learning? And how did I create this? What were the warning signs, the warning signals that I ignored? What was I doing in secret that did not honor the truth of who I am? Just look at it. Let's take a dive into
that. It seems like this is going along with this topic. In the media, there's this thing called cancel culture, where, and it seems for the most part, it really only applies to black men, where they are like Shannon, like Shedeur and Deon, where there's a standard that they're held to, that there seems to be the only one that's held to that. No one else is held to that standard. And on top of that, very brutal when it comes to disciplining, checking, chastising a black man, especially in the public eye. Just to give you a couple of examples, Kanye West, right? Give an example. When he spoke out about that community that many people don't want to mention it out of fear. When black men speak out, Kevin Hart was caught up with something when he said something about the LGBTQ community. He was taken off for the Oscars as a result of that. David Chappelle, all the drama he went through with Netflix off of his special when he mentioned, there seems to be that there's a cancel culture, but it only applies to black men.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I hear you, and that is true. I'm going all the way back to Colin Kaepernick. I wouldn't say that it only applies to black men, but I can see how black men are held to a higher standard. And I just wonder, what is the standard that black men have created for themselves? And is there a collective standard that black men live to, live up to, live into, so that when they are challenged with these artificial standards, that they can come back and say, no, this is it right here. This is how we do this. So that they're not held to these arbitrary standards. That's black men in general. Let's look at cancel culture, because we can do a deeper dive into that. It's a function of againstness. We are so, if we don't agree, we're against. If we're unfamiliar, we're against. If it's different, we're against, And againstness always leads to attack and violence. Always. Whenever you're against something, because you're seeing it as apart from you. When the truth is, there's only one. And in this whole, in this oneness, everything exists. So you cannot be against anything and not be against something in yourself. Because everything comes to us as a function and a reflection of who we are on the inside. Which is why I asked the question about black men and their standard. They're being held to a standard because maybe we're not really clear, or they're not really clear about the standard they hold themselves to. But I would say that for women too. See, white people have a standard. It's called superiority. That's their standard. And they're going to hold to it. They could be snuff-eaten, toothless, bald, 250 pounds overweight. And in their mind, their standard is they are better than the average person of color. And, that's just where we are. Not all of them, but in the world. If you have a man of color in, let's say, sweatpants and a baseball cap, and you have a white man in overalls and a plaid shirt, and you stand them up in the room, and you ask which one of these men has a college degree, which one of them owns property, which one of them has a bank account, I guarantee you, the majority of those you ask will say the white man has it and the black man doesn't. Never even consider that in his sweatpants and his baseball cap, he's got a PhD. That's where we live. So let's take a deeper dive into that. Let's take a deeper dive into that. And wait a minute. And this is a really serious question. Regardless of who you are, black, white, male, female, straight, gay, college grad, high school dropout, ask yourself really, what is your most intimate, deepest thought, feeling, belief about black men? Ask yourself that. Because the only way the againstness, the demoralization, the dehumanization, the violation of black men can exist in the world is because it exists in us. And this is a question that we need to grapple with, that we need to deal with. As a mother of a black man and a grandmother of two black men and a great, not two, oh my God, 5, 7. I think it's 7 black men, and the great grandmother of a mixed race child. But I'm raising him to know he's a black man. And our mantra is, I am a strong black boy growing into a powerful black man who's going to do great things in the world. And I teach him that now. Because although his skin is fair and his hair is straight, if he's in a room in a baseball cap and sweatpants with a white boy in a room, people are going to assume he's wrong. What do you hold in your heart about black men? Because what we see manifesting in the world and the energy and the thoughts and the beliefs and the treatment of black men is a function of us all. Get in your journal and take a deeper dive into that and tell the truth about
it. Well, interesting you say that because it kind of spills over into our next topic. In addition to Deon and Shedeur and Shiloh and Shay Shay being attacked, the majority of these attacks, a lot of the attacks, let me not say majority because I didn't go count, but the ones that I get to see that I'm exposed to online are from black women. Mm-hmm. It seems to be more ammunition to our community, to the black community, to further drive this divide between black men and black women. There's already a host of people online, podcasters, videocasters, that are relationship gurus. And they seem to be driving a bigger wedge between black men and black women. Now, this is an everyday conversation. I mean, people are actually making buku money. Is that a word, buku? Buku.
I think, yeah, Grandma used to say, yeah, buku. That is a word.
Buku.
I'm not sure what language it's from, but buku is a word. Just like shenanigations. Buku shenanigations. I like that, yeah.
Well, they're making a buku load of money by supposedly being relationship experts, therapists. And really, what I find is when I listen to them, I'm receiving information that makes, oh, see, look, black women are wrong. See, look what they're doing. I knew I was right. See how wrong they are? It kind of fuels whatever beef or discontent that I have in my life with women. And I'm pretty sure it works that way with everybody. And the same thing for women, whatever discontent they have with men, and then they see these things online. You can't trust men are dogs, men are this, men are that. And it feeds that. So it seems like this cancer culture is another tier or another layer in this back and forth or in this war between black men and black women, because nobody else is talking about it. We're the only ones that's talking about it. We're the only ones that cancel people.
No, that's not true. So let me be clear about what your inquiry. What is the inquiry we're making? What are we diving into here?
Well, all of that, what I just said. What would you say to this divide, and the divide is getting deeper or widening between black men and black women? There seems to be a lot of things on social media that's feeding the separation, and not too many things that's bringing us together.
Such an interesting observation. Not one that I can ascribe to, but it's definitely an interesting observation. Because life doesn't come from the outside in. Life comes from the inside out. Whatever we're seeing out in the world externally is simply a function of what we are experiencing internally. And in the world today, people in general, but particularly people of color, are feeling isolated and alone and wrong and any number of toxic negative qualities. We feel that way in our life. And it's just being mirrored out into the world. I'm a metaphysician. I don't look at the surface. I look beneath. I'm a spiritual technician. So I know how the spirit works so that when the spirit breaks down, I know how to put it back together. And I just find it so interesting that man, equals mind, and woman equals heart at a metaphysical perspective. Man is masculine or mind, woman is feminine or heart. When I look into the world today, when I look at everything that's going on, people are broken within. There's a disconnect between the mind and the heart. Why? Because we are programmed and conditioned and taught how to depend on the mind and ignore the heart. We are taught, that our feelings are bad, that our feelings are wrong. You don't owe you all in your feelings. And we are rewarded for our intellectual prowess, whether it's college or the inventions or whatever. Everything is given to the mind. And unbeknownst to many, the way the world has turned, the feminine energy is rising up. Feminine energy. And when I say feminine energy, I'm talking about grace and mercy and compassion and beauty and togetherness and oneness and harmony. Those things, and love. Love. Those things are rising up on the planet, on the earth, in the new earth. That's what's happening. So what it looks like at the 3D or the physical level is a againstness of men and women when it's really a disconnect between the mind and the heart. So let's take a deeper dive. Because most people will try to think their way out of a situation rather than get still and see what it feels like. But you can't birth nothing with a mind. You got to have a womb. And the heart is the womb. Your emotional body is your womb. So let's not get caught up in what it looks like as a divide between men and women. And why black men and black women? Because we were the first. We are the power. We are the origins of civilization. Mother Africa. So it looks like it's going on between us at the 3D physical level as a breakdown between man and woman, when it's actually a breakdown between our mental and our emotional. So let's dive in there. And let me tell you how you can just figure it out for yourself. How many times do you say yes when you want to say no? Just to keep the peace, not to get in trouble, just to go along. How many times do you think you have to do something that you don't feel like doing? But you do it because you think you're going to get something out of it. You think it's going to save you. You think it. And see, this is another thing that kind of lures us into this social media violence and negativity. We ain't paying attention to our head and our heart. We worried about what Shannon doing. We tried to get Shakur on the football team. And not worrying about the fact that you're mad at your daddy. And they spoke to him in 5 years. That you got brothers and sisters walking around that you talk about in the most unloving, unkind way. Not dealing with that. Let's get Shakur on the football team. Let me ask you a question. Do you have toilet paper? You worried about Shay Shay and Shakur and Deon. Sam's ain't got no toilet paper because of the tariffs. You need to pay attention to that. Pay attention to the toilet paper, your mind, and your heart, and get out of everybody else's business. But that's the dive. What's going on in your mind that you won't let your heart feel? Or what's going on in your heart that your mind says shouldn't be going on? Work on that area for a while. And I'm telling you this thing that looks like at the third dimension of againstness between men and women. It'll be resolved. When you get together, we'll come together.